Hey, everybody, it's Joe, and we are here with our continuing series on the Strategic Agent Goes All GSD. We are getting shit done for the summer. And today we are doing a continuation of that, and we're talking about this how a strategic agent does not leak leads. Now, I'm going to tell you about that in a minute, but I'm also going to remind you that usually this is not the format that I'm coming to you in. I'm usually doing a Facebook Live and giving you the lesson that way. But if you've been looking at Facebook lately, you know that I literally bit the dust and tore up the lower third of my face. And so instead of seeing me on a Facebook Live, you're getting to see this really nice airbrushed picture. All right, so let's talk about what I mean by the strategic agent does not leak leads. Well, I'm going to give you an example. Let's talk about open houses. And let's say that you have done all of this work to make this open house successful. You picked a really good open house. You made sure that the seller had it all nice and tidy, that the house is in the perfect location. It's in the perfect price point. It's new on the market. All the things that you want from an open house. You have advertised it. You even did a Facebook Live a couple of days before. You have gone and knocked on doors to invite neighbors into the open house. Whew, you have worked hard. But when it happened, were you ready to ask qualifying questions to the attendees? Did you ask them things like their plans? Did you make offers so they would engage with you? Were you Google ready before you got there? And did you follow up again and again and again? Yep, you did all the work and then you let people walk away. So that is what I mean by leaking leads. If we're going to do all the work to get in front of potential people, let's make sure that the system is there to capture the people and turn them into a client. So, what am I going to do? I am going to show you how not to leak any leads anymore by giving you the steps to make your business leak proof. I've got 3 steps that we're going to talk about. Step 1, we're going to maximize your contact. So, what do I mean by that? Let's take the open house example again, and let's talk about how you would maximize that contact. So I used to teach a class years ago to brand new real estate agents, and I always asked them over the weekend to go into an open house, to visit a couple of open houses, and to come back and give me a report on what that person said and did, et cetera, et cetera. So they went into the open house a bit incognito. And this is what they reported. They reported that agents walked up and said to them, "Hey, I'm so-and-so. Here's information about the house. Make sure to look around and let me know if you like it." That was it. We even got reports of people who walked in and they would find the real estate agent sitting back in the family room watching television. And when they came in, they'd go, "Hey, go on and look around. Let me know if you need anything." We even got reports of that. So, why show up and do those things if you're going to do that? If you're going to have an open house, let's make this as profitable as possible. So that starts with maximizing the contact. What do I mean? Well, one of the things that I mean is qualifying questions. For example, describe the perfect house. Now, I love open-ended questions like this, and many of you have heard me say this before, but when someone gets in front of you because of a house, so you're sitting in an open house or they've called on a sign or any of those things, they were attracted to the house and they call you to get more information about the house or to see the house. In that person's mind, you are attached to the house. And so if they decide to dismiss the house, they will also choose to dismiss you. So one of the very first things that you have to do as an agent is to separate yourself from the house. How do you do that? Well, you do that by becoming interested and curious about them and asking lots of big open-ended questions. For example, if someone walks into the house, you can go up and introduce yourself, ask their name, and here's one of my favorite questions. What is it about this house why you came in? Why did you come into this house? What was it about this house that attracted you? That kind of question opens it up to understand what their perfect house is, right? So now you're not just trying to sell the house you're in, you're trying to understand the people. And that turns the conversation a lot. Other questions. How long have you been looking? That gives you an idea where they are in the process and opens you up to ask the question of if they have been using a real estate professional. And of course, my very favorite question ever, and I think I just said that about the other question, but I have lots of favorites. If the world was perfect, when would I be handing you the keys to your new house? Now, I love this for several reasons. Well, actually, two reasons. The first one is that I'm asking them to think in the future and I'm asking them to give me a date, right? I'm asking them to look in the future and say, well, the perfect date would be blah, 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 blah. And then the second thing I really like about this question is that now I have them putting me in their future with them because of the way I asked that question. I'm asking them to look in the future with me standing beside them with a pair of keys in their hand. That is a very, very powerful question. And this question gives me an idea of what their time frame is, which is really huge as well. Second thing I want to do in that contact is I want to make an offer. I don't want to just say, hey, thanks for stopping by. I want to make an offer to them. I want to say something to them like, you know what, you're far enough in this process that maybe what we need to do is a home buyer's game plan. That is where we sit down at my office and we go through all the steps and we talk about timing of this whole thing. Now, I offer people this a lot because I know that if I get them into my office and get them face to face with me, I have a very big chance of conversion, a very big chance of conversion and them becoming mine. And the other reason I even say it this way, home buyer's game plan, is because if I had said to them, hey, you want to come by and talk to me about moving? They wouldn't have come. But when I commoditize it by giving it a name, giving it a brand, the home buyer's game plan, it is something they want. It's like it's something they're getting, right? So that's the reason I put it that way. By the way, if you want lots of detail on all the scripts of different prospecting methods and how you talk to people when you get in front of them, you know that the strategic agent has something called Become Brilliant at the Basics, which is available now and online. And one of the reasons I'm mentioning it, besides it's a really great program, is because right now we have got a massive discount on this puppy, 61%, and it's going to be ending soon. So I wanted to make sure you knew about it. All right, step 2, and that is to be Google worthy. So what am I talking about? Well, when they walk out of whatever contact they had with you, let's continue on the open house idea, they're going to be going back and they are going to Google you and they are going to search for proof that you are the real estate agent that they want, or you're not the real estate agent they want. They are looking for the social proof. That's what they're doing. I know. Isn't that just hateful? That means that right now you need to Google yourself. You need to go out there and see what shows up. Is it good? Is it bad? And I'm betting that in most cases it's going to be indifferent. It's just going to be indifferent. You need to go in and take a really long, hard look at your profiles. It is hateful to do that. I know it is. I think of this as the equivalent of getting stark naked and standing in front of a mirror while on the scales. I think of it as exactly that way because it's just hard to do that, but it is something necessary. By the way, I don't know if y'all know this, but our very own Shannon Ramos is an expert on profiles, and she has a program called Online Profiles Made Easy, as well as helps agents one-on-one, coaching them through this process. So if that's something you need help with, she's a really good person to reach out to about that. All right, step 3, you gotta have a follow-up system. So let's talk a little bit about this, because follow-up systems, I find, first, are crazy important, but secondly, nobody's good at them. And I mean nobody's good at them. And let's talk about a follow-up system using this question. A few minutes ago, I introduced this question of, if the world is perfect, when would I be handing you the keys to the new house? That, if I ask that question, gives me a time frame for them, and it allows me to put them in a bucket. So let me introduce you into a potential follow-up system, okay? So if someone says to me, well, Joe, I want to move in about 4 months. So when I'm recording this, I'm about 4 months to Christmas. And I want to move in between Christmas and New Year's. Well, then they would go in my 90 to 180 day bucket. I like having buckets. So when I ask that question, if they're under 90 days, I put them in one bucket. If they're 90 to 180, I put them in another bucket. If they're over 180, they go into a third bucket. So why does this matter? Because each one of my buckets has a process. This is how you set up a follow-up system. You know that if you ask that question and they are 90 to 180 days, they're going in that bucket, and you are going to try to set an appointment with them. And because you want to go ahead and say to them, you know what, I think this home buyer game plan would be a really good idea for you. And that would allow us to sit down and start giving you the process and giving you the steps and educating you about the process so you'll be ready. By the way, National Association of Realtors right now says it takes people that it takes about 10 weeks and 10 houses. So the search takes about 10 weeks and 10 houses, just as an FYI. That's their latest stat on that. So I would try to set an appointment. And if I can't get an appointment set, I'm going to send them a note, and then I'm going to call them, and then I'm going to text them, and then I'm going to call them, and then I'm going to text them, and I'm going to keep on. I'm going to know what my system is. Here's the deal. If you don't know exactly what your next steps are, then what's going to happen is you're going to forget, and you're going to wander off from that lead. That is one of the ways you leak. But if you already have it predefined what your actions are based on the bucket that they go into, then it becomes a whole bunch easier. So under 90, I'm calling, I'm getting them. I'm calling, I'm texting, I'm calling, right? Over 180, I'm going to send them a note, and then I'm probably going to offer them something of value. I'm going to say, hey, can I set you up on the drip campaign so you can start educating yourself? For example. Then I'm going to go into my CRM, and I'm going to set up what date I need to call them. And if they told me they wanted to move in 7 months, I'm going to be probably calling them in 4 months. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. So I'm going to use a combination of those things. Now, like I said, I really believe that you set out a system for you so you don't have to think about it, that it just automatically happens. But anytime I show this system to anybody, I get a question, and I always get the same question. How often do I call? How long do I call? What do I say every time that I call? I get lots of questions about that. So let's talk about this. This is some stunning information from the National Sales Executive Association. Look at these stats. 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. And why? Why did you go to all that trouble of getting in front of them if you're not going to do that? 25% of them make a second contact and stop. I hear this from agents all the time. Well, I've already called them and they didn't call me back. Right? I hear that all the time. I've said that, by the way. So there's absolutely no judgment here. I have done them all. 12% of the people only make 3 contacts and stop. Only 10% of the people make more than 3 contacts. By the way, 2% of the sales are made after the first contact, 3% are made after the second contact, 5 after the third, 10 after the fourth, and a whopping 80% of the sales are made after the fifth contact. I know that is a terrible statistic because you don't want to have to do that. And by the way, there I would qualify this and say if the contact has come out of your sphere of influence, it's probably going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be as cold or take as long. But here's the bottom line. You have got to have a good follow-up system. And one telephone call is not a follow-up system. 2 telephone calls isn't a follow-up system. You're going to have to call multiple times. Let me give you an example. So, I've been a real estate agent for over 20 years, and I need for y'all to know a deep, dark secret about myself. I believe that being a real estate agent is legal insider trading. Yep, I sure do. Because we get to see all these houses, good deals of houses come by, and we get to buy them legally, right? We get to buy them even sometimes before they hit the market. We get to do that. It's really a yummy thing, this whole process. So, because I have believed that, I have over the years bought houses. And I had an accumulation of houses, and I had them sitting out on mortgages that decreased as the interest rates decreased. But as we were starting to talk about mortgage rates going back up, I thought, yeah, I need to start thinking about refining some of these houses. And so I walk into a mortgage lender, or I call a mortgage lender one day, and I ask him some questions, and he hands me the applications for it. And honestly, it was overwhelming. And I had to do it for 6 of them. And I was like, oh, yeah, I don't have time right now. And I put it off. Well, this mortgage lender called me every month for 18 months. 18 months. 18 months. I would see him call, and I would see the number come up, and I would know who it was. And for 18 months, I ignored him. Now, the question is, did I ever think to myself, gosh, he's pushy? And the answer is no. I never thought that. My thought every time was, gosh, I really need to get to that. So, one day I am, oh, and by the way, one of the reasons I never thought of him as pushy is because of what he said in the voicemails. Every single time he said, hey, Joe, it's Robert, and I just wanted to let you know I'm ready when you're ready. Let me know when I can roll up my sleeves and go to work for you. Great message. There was nothing pushy about that at all. That was a warm, nice message. I really appreciated this message. And really, what he was doing, right, is reminding me he was there. So he knew that one day I was going to have that magic moment where I went, oh, I've got to do this. And if he had not made those 18 phone calls, I would not have remembered who he was. Just that simple. I would have wandered off to another mortgage lender, but nope. He kept in touch, and the only thing I had to do was look at the history of my phone. Actually, I didn't even have to look at the history of my phone because one day I saw a news article about how interest rates were projected to go up over the next few years, and I said to myself, well, it's time. And then I picked up my phone one day, and there was his number, and I answered the phone, and I said to him, Robert, it's your lucky day. And I gave him 6 loans. Yep. And he deserved them, by the way, after 18 months of calling me. But that's the point. It wasn't that I felt negatively toward him or didn't want to use him. I just wasn't ready. So think about that message. Hey, Joe, I'm just letting you know that I'm here and I'm ready when you're ready. That's a great message. You don't have to have something special to say to somebody. You just have to let them know you're there. All right, so let's review. Maximize your contact was step 1. By the way, a few weeks ago, we gave away something called Strategic Agent is Always Ready. You can file it in the files section of your Facebook group. And in that, we talked about some of the things that you needed to be ready for, including talking about some things like how's the market, what do you do? Those are some things that are germane to this conversation. Step 2, be Google worthy. Several weeks ago, Shannon put out a report called Stand in Your Brilliance. It is also out there in the file section, free for you to take in your Facebook group. And let me just go ahead and say it because I'm thinking it. Wow, we give y'all lots of great things in the Facebook group. And then lastly, you have to set up your follow-up system. Those are the 3 steps. Okay, you have a choice. Right here you are. You can let your money go down the drain. All the money that you spent on prospecting to get people up in front of you, you can let it go down the drain, or you can let it come to you. That's your choice. And also, as a reminder, we've got some great resources out there for you, including Become Brilliant at the Basics and Online Profiles Made Easy. All right, that is your weekly GSD installment called A Strategic Agent Just Simply Does Not Leak Leads. All right, guys, go have a great week and think about where you're leaking.